Hello, welcome to TJ13 TV. Today I'm chatting to TJ13 Editor-in-Chief AJ to get his opinion on why Mercedes should abandon the race strategy that's been so successful for them over the past 4 years and turn over a new leaf. AJ, welcome, and first question, you feeling better?
Yeah, hi Charlie, good to see you again. I had a bit of a lurgy at the weekend. I couldn't breathe, had a cough, head cold. You know, that and getting up at the crack of dawn for the Chinese Grand Prix led to my rather entertaining race review, but definitely feeling better. And to be honest, Charlie, I think the Chinese Grand Prix was a massive game changer for Mercedes. You know, they've dominated at this venue for years. I think they got pole in 2012 or 2013, and they've had pole every year since. They've won the race every year since 2012, bar one. And yet, this weekend, the Silver Arrows were just not at the races. You know, just like when Red Bull and Vettel dominated Formula One in their pomp, you know, Mercedes for the last 4 seasons have adopted a very risk-averse strategy to their races based upon retaining track position. And I think this approach was just completely blown out of the water in Shanghai.
Well, that's a pattern we've seen over recent years, isn't it? That teams are towards fewer stops and track position becoming increasingly key.
Absolutely, and who can forget even the race before in Bahrain, Vettel eking out 39 laps on the soft tyre. But in China, this approach was woefully inadequate and totally the wrong way to go.
Well, it was Red Bull who changed it all up, and their approach, easy to say with hindsight, but it seemed like a no-brainer. However, without the safety car, would it have worked?
Well, the lap times suggest so, Charlie. A two-stopper was actually the quickest way to go. But Merck seemed to be stuck in a race strategy rut. And with the arrival of a third team in the battle for race wins, actually, I feel, are going to be forced to rewrite their race strategy book. The fastest way to win a race must become their new paradigm.
But interestingly enough, in China this year, it wasn't just the first pit stop tyre call that cost Mercedes. It was sloppy thinking. They didn't seem to react that well to what was happening on track. And that is possibly becoming a Mercedes Achilles heel.
Absolutely. It was dead simple. Lewis was wedged between the Red Bulls when the safety car was thrown. Max and Danny both pitted, changed to a two-stop race strategy, and they were put on the quicker soft tyre. Merck and Lewis were left to struggle on the harder medium tyre, and it was a huge error. Lewis's position could easily have been mitigated.
So do you think Lewis and Mercedes could have won the race if they'd pitted him under the safety car and put the softer tyres on? I want you to get your hindsight crystal ball out.
Yes, well, Mystic Meg here. There was still a lot of variables to play out when the safety car came. And Verstappen should have been too quick for Lewis. The FP2 data that we analysed on the Judge 13 website suggested that Verstappen and Red Bull had the quickest car in the soft tyre long runs. But a podium was definitely on the cards for Hamilton because Bottas and Vettel were too far around the circuit. They couldn't pit.
So that's quite a big fail for Mercedes' strategy then. But given the actual reactions when the safety car was deployed, there was only going to be one result. 2 Red Bulls on the charge, Hamilton on the hardest and slowest tyre available.
Yes, Charlie, a tyre which Hamilton hadn't even used during the weekend. In fact, Mercedes had elected for him to only take 2 sets of the medium tyre to China. Of course, that decision was made before the first race in Australia after testing in Barcelona.
But in a way, Lewis was handed a get-out-of-jail-free card, wasn't he?
Yes, Lewis was lucky. Fortunate that Max and Sebastian had a synchronised spin. Otherwise, P5 was where Hamilton was heading, with Vettel ending up in P4. And of course, that would have been a further loss of 2 points to Sebastian Vettel. But instead, Lewis gained 8 points on the German rival. A bad weekend for Mercedes in one way, but a 10-point swing in Lewis's favour.
But what I'm interested in, we're always seeing pictures and hearing about this army of strategists they've got back at the factory and at the racetrack. How do Mercedes get it so wrong?
Look, Charlie, I've sat in a race strategy room, and you're right. There are a team of people constantly running contingency planning scenarios. You know, someone is tasked with announcing to the team that the safety car window is open as soon as an accident happens. You know, and within seconds, decisions are made as to what each driver's optimum choices are. Various choices of tyres are available on tyre warmers. You know, the decisions are made very, very quickly.
Okay, so Red Bull got it right. Mercedes was sleeping. Here's a bit of a left field idea, but is Mercedes' dominance in qualifying, or their dominance over the last few years in qualifying, affecting their race processes?
To be honest, I think it's more a loss of race pace. Mercedes have got a car which punishes the tyres with incremental thermal degradation, and that's their big issue. The answer to all situations for Mercedes has previously been to just turn up their all-dominant PU and drive off into the sunset. You know, but this track position-based philosophy is not going to work now that Ferrari are on a par with engine power.
Okay, AJ, given everything you've said, are Mercedes just going to have to roll the dice and hope for the best in Azerbaijan?
Well, in Baku, a street circuit, track position will be important. So it'll be fascinating to see whether Mercedes continue this conservative approach that they've had, or whether they try and run the quickest race strategy and learn the lessons from China.
Well, as evidenced by China, we've now got 3 teams in the mix. I guess that muddies things up a bit, makes it a bit more complex.
It does, infinitely so. With just 2 teams in the hunt, you can use, as long as you've got 2 cars at the sharp end of the race, you can use each car to cover off the opposition if you want to drive defensively and a conservative strategy. But now with Red Bull at the party, Merck's 2 cars can't adapt their race strategy by the decisions made by 4 other cars. So this is why Mercedes are going to have to be bold and change the way that they think. They're going to have to strategize to run the quickest race possible, not to play shadow games with Ferrari, because if they do this, you're going to see a repeat of Red Bull nicking in and stealing race after race.
Okay, bring it on. Seems like we might have 3 teams fighting at the top. We've been waiting for it for a long time. After giving it such a hard time, we might have an F1 golden era. Who knows? AJ, thanks very much for your time, and yeah, bring on the race.